plans. Wolf.
MJ Lee reporting from New York. I want to bring in Dr. Sanjay Gupta, our chief medical correspondent, to join us right now on the phone. Sanjay, thanks very much. The video, you've seen it. Our viewers have now seen it several times. As she goes into the van, she seems nearly to collapse. It's pretty disturbing when you see the video. What should we make of this?
Yeah, it's very noticeable, Wolf. No question when you watch that video. I think that if you're watching it now, you sort of see her standing there. And she is having, it looks like someone supporting her on the left side, sort of helping her, but she's standing there, seemingly no problem. It's really when she starts to move towards the van that you really notice how unsteady she seems to be. And then clearly when she gets to the van, she has real trouble sort of stumbling into the van. When you look at this, first of all, just looking at a video like anybody else, it's very hard for anybody to have too much speculation or conjecture around this. But I think one of the things, you keep in mind is that common things are common when it comes to medical things like this. If someone, you heard somebody who wasn't feeling well in a hot setting, felt unsteady and imbalanced, you would think someone who has a component of dehydration, maybe low blood pressure, was there a little bit of an underlying viral illness or something like that? Those would be the things that immediately sort of come to mind, especially as you point out, Wolf, sometime later, not that much later, you do see her coming out and, smiling, waving, obviously, of her own accord. Whatever it was seemed to be rather short-lived.
Yeah, she did come out and she was smiling and shook hands with some people who were on the sidewalk there outside of Chelsea Clinton's apartment. Answered one question from reporter, "How are you feeling?" She said, "Great." Hypothyroidism, seasonal pollen allergies. Talk a little bit about that, because that's what we're hearing from the campaign.
Well, when you start to piece these things together, and again, you're doing, when you're doing this, you're sort of doing it retroactively, meaning you've seen what's happened and now you're trying to explain it. Hypothyroidism, so people who have hypothyroidism will take a medication to increase their thyroid function. I think the reason the campaign is bringing it up is because she had described as feeling overheated. Sometimes thyroid medication can make somebody feel overheated. You're giving extra, thyroid hormone. So that, again, in combination with the heat, with standing in a particular position for a long time, all those things can add up. With regard to allergy medication, you're talking about antihistamines, typically decongestants. The thing about decongestants is that they make you feel dry, so your nose is not running anymore, but it also makes your body sort of dry as well, meaning you're more likely to be dehydrated, more likely to have a low blood pressure. Again, in isolation or in combination with the conditions of the event where she was at, those are plausible. But again, all of this, I want to be clear, is still speculation. We just don't know. It doesn't appear that she saw a medical professional or somebody after this episode. So we don't have some real data, which is what doctors would want.
Yeah, here in New York, it's above 80 degrees today. Earlier this morning, it wasn't that hot, but it was still close to 80, maybe a little bit higher than 80 degrees. She was there for more than an hour at that 911 memorial event, and she left early because apparently she wasn't feeling that great. Here's a statement, Sanjay, that the Clinton campaign put out, and I'm quoting it now. Secretary Clinton attended the September 11th commemoration ceremony for an hour and 30 minutes this morning to pay her respects and greet some of the families of the fallen. During the ceremony, she felt overheated, so departed to go to her daughter's apartment and is feeling much better. That's the statement that the campaign put out. It's of concern. A lot of this is of concern, Sanjay, because there is a history there. Back in late 2012, she did have a fainting spell. She did have a concussion, as we remember, and there was a blood clot that was discovered, and you're a neurosurgeon, thrombosis, as it's called, between her brain and her skull. She's been taking medication, blood thinners, ever since. Could any of that be having an impact today?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I think there's no question that you have to think about that. You asked, could it have an impact today? And the answer is yes. Did it? Does it? That we don't know, again, because we don't know that there was any kind of medical testing today after this recent episode. But I think the first thing that you brought up was she fainted in 2012, which is why she fell in there. She hit her head at that point, and it was that blow to the head that also caused this blood clot to form in one of the blood vessels. Now, why'd she faint back then? And she fainted again now. Again, it could very simply be, common things being common, an episode of dehydration, going too long without drinking, having a very active schedule where, these things, again, all add up, added to the medications that she may have been taking back then, is taking now. All those things add up. So that's the first thing. She's fainted, it sounds like, twice. If, in fact, again, today was an actual fainting episode. The second thing is the sort of aftermath of the injury that she had to her brain, into that blood vessel. Her doctors have been very clear on this, and have said that there's no persistent side effects from that injury. She is on blood thinners, as you point out. So someone who's on blood thinners, you do worry that if they do have a fall again or something, they're more likely to bleed. But the blood thinners themselves should not cause an episode like this.
Blood thinners, baby aspirin can be a blood thinner. She takes what's called Coumadin. Tell us about that.
Coumadin is a commonly taken blood thinner. It's a medication that's attractive because it can be taken orally. A lot of blood thinners have to be given by injection of some sort. So this is one that can be taken orally, and it's typically a medication that you do have to have your blood levels checked periodically to make sure that, in fact, you're getting enough of the medication, not too much of the medication, and that your blood is sort of at the right level of clotting. She's been on that, it sounds like, for some time, because she also has a history of deep venous thrombosis, Wolf. Those are blood clots that form in the legs, and you want to give blood thinners because the concern is they could break off and go to the lungs. So even before the episode in 2012, my understanding, from looking at her medical chart, or medical note, I should say, was that she'd had blood thinners already.
And you say it looks like when she was trying to get into the van, she actually fainted. Is that your conclusion based on the video we're all taking a look at, Sanjay?
I can't say it was characterized that way. I think by some folks who may have been closer. You can't tell. She definitely seems to stumble. Again, what is striking when you watch the video, and I'm not watching it right now myself, but if you can see it, Wolf, is that she's standing, with some assistance from somebody to her left, but is standing okay. It's really when she starts to move that she has trouble. And that would make sense, again, with somebody who's feeling imbalanced because of low blood pressure, dehydration, whatever. It could be a multitude of different reasons, but that one would sort of spring to the top of the list. I think, Wolf, as she's getting into the van, she sort of falls forward. She doesn't quite make it into the van initially. So I don't know what happened there, if that was just more of a stumble. I don't think anyone can tell from looking at that video that she fainted.
And one quick question. She's supposed to fly off to California tomorrow. Out of an abundance of caution, if you were her physician, would you tell her, maybe do some medical exams before you do that? Would you check her in, or at least have a physician take a closer look? What would you do?
Yeah, I think I would. And this has less to do with the fact that she's Hillary Clinton or a candidate for president. But I think if you hear of anybody who's having this episode that's a little bit unusual, maybe not surprising given again the heat of the day and the medications, but I think, as you say, out of an abundance of caution, I'd probably want to make sure that her blood pressure, do routine EKG, check some basic lab values, and that's not, in medicine you have your strong suspicions, and I think, again, the most common conclusion here is what we've been talking about. But out of an abundance of caution and an interest in thoroughness, you might want to check those other things. And if they checked out fine, I think she'd have no problem traveling. But if I were Dr. Bardak, who's her doctor, or any of the other doctors who have been caring for her, I'd be wondering if they're saying, hey, look, we should probably just get some routine tests given what has happened today.
Yeah, that would be good advice from Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay is going to be with us throughout the afternoon as we cover this story. We have a lot more coming up. Let's take a quick break. We'll resume our special coverage right after this.